What's up everybody, this is Derek here, and in this video I'm going to explain why, if you want to win more games, you should be playing on smooth graphics. So let's go ahead and we'll jump into the settings and I'll show you what I'm doing wrong. And that is, we'll go down to the graphical tab and you can see here that I am playing on HDR, which is the highest graphical preset. Ultra HD is still coming soon. And frame rate goes from low all the way up to ultra. Ultra is 40 FPS, not 60. I was wrong there. So what's really interesting is if you actually click on HD or balance, you'll still see ultra as the highest. However, if you click on smooth, and this brings us to reason number one, smooth actually unlocks extreme. And I know that with other programs or by modifying the INI files, you can actually unlock extreme, which is 60 FPS on other modes too. However, unless you have a real high-end device, it's going to probably struggle to render at 60 FPS while you're running one of those higher graphical presets. So the first reason why smooth makes for easier games and easier games to win is because when you're playing at a higher frame rate, it's easier to engage people, especially close range, because they're jumping around and they become very choppy if you're running at less than, say, 30 FPS or so. So if you have a high-end device that supports 60 FPS, well, it'll definitely do 60 FPS on smooth easier, without as much blockiness or lagging or glitching. And then if you're running a lower end device, well, if you can only get 15 or 20 FPS at HD, well, you can probably get more than that at smooth. So again, regardless of what device you're running it on, it makes more sense to run at smooth where you can get a higher frame rate. And then that way, that translates to smoother movements in the game, which can give you a tactical advantage, like I said, especially if you're battling people in a house or somewhere where you're in close quarters, because as soon as people are starting to jump around and just move in random directions, it's a lot easier to track them and engage them. So that is reason number one. And reason number two, we're going to jump into training mode. We are in training mode looking at how this 60 FPS is running. Hopefully the screen recorder is capturing at that. I'm not sure because I switched the settings while I was screen recording. However, it is very, very smooth for me. It's 60 FPS definitely, which is really nice. We'll talk about the other reasons now. There are 2.5 reasons why running in smooth is definitely the easiest way to win a game. And the second one is actually what used to be a disadvantage. So everyone always said, oh, just run smooth and you'll be able to see people easier and be able to engage them and all that. However, there was one big disadvantage up until this latest 0.5.0 update of running smooth graphics, and that is that it used to, I believe it's called downsampling. So basically, the game used to render a lower resolution than your screen. So when you switched your graphics, so for every other graphical preset, it would render at 100% of your screen resolution. However, for smooth, it would actually render at 90% of your screen resolution, and what that meant was that for people at a distance especially, they would look they look blurry, not sharp, out of focus, and they would be more difficult to see than if you were in a higher graphical setting. So even though smooth has a number of other advantages which make it easier to see people and engage them, one of the biggest disadvantages prior to 0.5.0, this is no longer a problem, it now renders at 100% resolution for any game mode. However, before this update, what used to happen is that, especially for people at a distance, running in smooth was a disadvantage because the resolution of the game was being rendered lower to help with the frames per second. However, the disadvantage of that, like I said, was that especially at a distance, people were not as easy to see. So that is one of the reasons. Another reason, or those are 1.5 reasons really, because it's not really an advantage to be running at 100% when every other graphical mode also runs at that now. However, running smooth after 0.5.0 is no longer a disadvantage. That's the point I'm trying to get across. Point number two is that the grass and ground cover render distance is reduced in smooth. This makes sense because rendering the grass or other ground cover is taxing on your system, and the further you have to render it, think about it like a circle. Basically, as you go out another 10 meters, 20 meters, your device has to work a lot more because there's more of that ground cover as you go further out. So right around you, you can only fit so much, but when you're rendering out 150 meters, it's actually going to have to render a lot more because as you go further out, you can see more of the landscape, so there's more to render physically. So in smooth, it's around 80 meters. I might not have these perfect, but basically in smooth, it renders around 80 meters. And then in HDR or HD, it renders around 140 meters, which is a lot more. And obviously that's, it's not even double, but it's a big difference, especially when you're in one of the final circles. And the difference between rendering grass and not rendering grass means seeing someone or not seeing them. So why not give yourself a tactical edge by being able to see people who are perhaps prone in the grass that doesn't render, because you're, more than 80 meters away and able to take that shot. So, other people are using that as an advantage. Why not use it too? And then the final reason is that smooth doesn't render shadows. So it's no surprise that if you're rendering shadows like you do in HD or HDR, balance doesn't really render shadows either. But smooth, you can see there are no shadows here. There are no shadows by the vehicles, no shadows under trees, under bridges, nothing. And that means that everything is just brighter and easier to see overall. And it also means that people can't hide in the shadows. So that's another real good reason for, just brightening up the game. It makes people stand out a lot more. And of course, it looks nice. All these effects look nice. However, if you want to win, it's not so much about looking nice as just getting any sort of tactical advantage you can, in my opinion. So hopefully this video helped you out. Definitely give it a thumbs up if it did to help grow the channel, and consider subscribing if you haven't already for tons more PUBG Mobile content. My name's Derek G, and I hope to see you on the battlefield soon, or in my Discord, which I'll leave a link to down below.